What's up, guys, and welcome back to Wake Up Entertainment. So, in the Senzo Meiwa trial, a ballistics expert, Colonel Chris Mangena, actually testified that he retrieved a firearm that was linked to Umtobisi Mncube from the Cleveland police station. He actually agreed that when he was given this firearm, it was contained in an open seal bag, but proceeded to take it and do some tests on it.
You're saying on the 20th, you went to Cleveland and received this firearm in a bag which had a broken seal.
That's correct, Malon.
Thank you. Wanted to know the reason why you decided to take that bag which was containing this firearm, despite the fact that it had a broken seal, when you had earlier on testified that you would not receive a bag with a broken seal.
Now, in this instance, the firearm is under police custody. It's at the SAP 13. So, preventing the contamination, what contamination will it be? I went there to sign for it from the SAP 13. It was not sealed. I booked it out, not sealed. If the police officer goes to the SAP 13, any other maybe investigating officer, they will also find the firearms not sealed. They will seal and then send it to the net. So I went to fetch it. Why must I seal it so that I can open it again? But the original case of that firearm was finalized. So the firearm was destined for destruction. So there was no need for them to seal it. When I received it, it was not sealed. And I understand why it was not sealed. So if it was maybe the IO who collected it to send it to her, he will collect it unsealed and then he will seal it and send it to her.
Mr. Muchali came and told this court that he would also not accept an exhibit that is not sealed in his possession. So in other words, when he took over this exhibit from those that he received from, he made it a point that it is sealed, and it has been sealed according to him when he received it. When he received it, all of a sudden the seal is broken.
But the question asked to me is, why did I receive it in the open bag? Why the bag was open? I don't know who opened the bag, and I don't know what was the reason why they opened the bag.
So before we get into Chris Mangena's actions, there's something really disturbing that he said that I actually caught. He said that if the investigating officer gets this unsealed bag, he can just seal it, then send it for forensic investigations. It's really shocking for the forensic expert Chris Mangena to be saying that, because he is more of like kind of implicating investigating officers here, or maybe is it just me being suspicious? Because he might be opening like a huge can of worms of investigating officers collecting these unsealed bags, sealing them, then sending them to the forensic investigations. That's why Chris Mangena ended up saying, why should I seal the bag when I can just go to the forensic investigations, then unseal it again? There's no need. But if it's the investigating officer, he can seal it, then send it. It's really surprising for a forensic investigator to say that. So the first question that we have to ask Chris Mangena here is that, why did he collect a firearm that had a seal that was actually broken? Obviously, in his defense, he said that this firearm was scheduled to be destroyed. And yes, it's true, but you do not take a firearm that is a seal that is broken to do some ballistic examinations on it before its disposal. It defeats the whole purpose of doing examinations here, because the seal is actually broken. Because if the seal itself is broken, then everything that you're actually doing in terms of a test, it's actually tainted here. So obviously the first thought that comes to mind is that probably, you never know, maybe that firearm was actually replaced with another one, or at least it was there at Cleveland police station. What actually raises a red flag even further is the exhibit manager who worked at Cleveland police station. between 2019 and 2022, and that is Captain Mjali. Captain Mjali himself, he actually said that as the exhibit manager, he would never accept or store an unsealed firearm, and he was actually emphasizing standard procedures are actually required for all evidence to be properly sealed. So if we have an exhibit manager here who is actually saying something like this, that he would never accept or store a firearm which is unsealed, and he worked between 2019 and 2022, so this firearm was actually retrieved in 2015. The question that we have to ask is that who was the exhibit manager during that period in 2015? Because this guy, the exhibit manager, Captain Mjali, who testified in court, he actually testified and actually said that he is not going to do anything like that. The question is, why did the court not call the person who was the exhibit manager at Cleveland Police Station in 2015 when that firearm was retrieved with a broken seal? Because that exhibit manager, it's him actually who stores all these firearms for storage at that police station. And it actually makes sense to question him instead of somebody who worked whilst this firearm was not retrieved during his own period. Because you see, in forensic practice, maintaining this unbroken chain of custodial evidence is actually very, very crucial, because it prevents tampering or contamination of the evidence itself. So looking at Chris Mangena here, like, let's look at him really closely. He is a ballistic expert, not an evidence custodian. He is not responsible for ensuring that the evidence he has not been tampered with once it's taken from Tobis Mncube and all the way to the storage, up to the point that he is given that firearm. He is not an evidence custodian. His role is to simply perform forensic tests. But the wrong thing that he actually did here, Chris Mangena, it was to accept and work on an unsealed firearm bag. And that itself is a procedural flaw that Chris Mangena actually did. And it puts like a lot of questions to all of these evidence that he found. The credibility of his evidence here is put to question. So instead, what Chris Mangena should have done is that when he was given this firearm with the seal broken, he should have quickly raised concerns about it and simply rejected the firearm, because there are legal implications to all of this. But obviously, Chris Mangena would never get to the extent of being arrested or something like that, because he was simply doing his job. He was just given the firearm and was simply given an instruction to do some tests on it, and he simply followed the instructions. So the only way maybe Chris Mangena can be found to be on the wrong side of the law is when he is actually found that he was actually intentionally corrupt or was actually involved in falsifying the evidence and misleading the investigation itself. So Chris Mangena for now is a little bit safe. So unfortunately, this is where we are at right now. And the question that we are probably asking is that, is Judge Rato going to deem this evidence is admissible or inadmissible? Is he going to accept this evidence? With the way the trial is currently going right now, definitely Judge Rata is going to accept this evidence is admissible. Because look, when it comes to the confessions, despite being told out that those accused were actually forced to sign on confessions that were already pre-written for them, and all they had to do was to simply sign on it, and Judge Rata deemed that evidence is admissible. So obviously, he is going to deem this evidence from Chris Mangena as admissible, despite all of these concerns of an unsealed bag. And this is just my observation on what Judge Rata might actually do. But maybe, you never know, he can actually surprise us and actually throw away all of Chris Mangena's evidence. If he actually does something like that to reject Chris Mangena's evidence, it's going to be really exciting because it's a fair decision from my point of view, because what Chris Mangena did was actually unacceptable. So tell me what you think in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.